There clearly was veneration of serpents, and
Yeah.
I suppose in a way that leads us on to the most recent of my non-fiction books, which is Supernatural, where I do look at the visionary experiences of shamans, and it is quite intriguing how shamans all over the world, in altered states of consciousness, have visions of serpent-like beings, and these serpent-like beings are intelligent, and they are not evil, and they appear to want to teach wisdom to the world. And you find them. I was recently in Utah, looking at petroglyphs and rock art in Utah, dating back in some cases 4,000 or 5,000 years. American Indian rock art. Very interesting serpent images there, where the serpent has the head of some other kind of animal. Exactly the same serpent imagery is found in South Africa, thousands of miles away, from a totally unconnected culture. Well, the common factor is shamanism and altered states of consciousness. And I think
that's pretty wild.
Yeah, I think that we don't have time to go into this in depth tonight, but I think that this question of accessing the realm of vision and of the work of shamans cannot be dismissed lightly. I think that it's also part of the ancient legacy that's come down to it.
So in your book, Supernatural, you're starting to drill into, okay, is there a connection between these ancient monuments and something that has maybe not originated on this planet but has been coming here?
Yeah. I certainly am, and I had, again, because my pattern of research is to immerse myself in the subject personally, rather than simply to sit in an armchair and work from books and references. I went down to the Amazon and I drank ayahuasca many times, which is this visionary brew, with Amazonian shamans.
That's the right way to do it.
It's the right way to do it, and so I have had personal experience in the visionary state.
I mean, did you?
It's like entering a seamlessly convincing parallel universe,
oh my gosh.
Which is inhabited by intelligent beings that often take a part animal, part human form.
Interesting.
And again, critics could easily dismiss this as just, my brain on drugs. But you have to realize that precisely the same imagery is found in rock and cave art all over the world, going back to the very beginnings of the artistic endeavor in the human story, which is more than 35,000 years ago.
Okay.
And the suggestion that I come to, and I only make this as a suggestion, is that what's happening with these curious molecules that are found in visionary plants is that they alter the receiver wavelength of the brain, that normally, and I must cite here Rick Strassman's fantastic work with
spirit molecule,
DMT, the spirit molecule, at the University of New Mexico, where Rick was, after a very difficult endeavor, was given permission by the federal government to conduct research with human volunteers and dimethyltryptamine, DMT. DMT is the active molecule in the ayahuasca brew from South America. His volunteers all began to report back visits to what appeared to be the same parallel realms, and meeting these serpent beings, and being given love and teachings by these beings. Now I know that there are factions who would say, that's the devil at work, but anybody who has encountered the ayahuasca spirit, as the Amazonians have, and as I have in drinking ayahuasca, will tell you with absolute confidence that we're dealing with a being of pure love, whose business is the planet, and who finds time to work with individual human beings to help us to improve ourselves, improve our behavior, improve our relationships to others. Ayahuasca is a tough journey, which confronts you with the truth about yourself and gives you the opportunity to make changes.
Well, anybody who's into Zen Buddhism or Taoism or Asian culture the dragon always symbolizes wisdom, and it's a flying dragon.
Exactly. And
so you're saying that's the same kind of thing happening?
I'm saying it's exactly the same kind of thing happening. And
so then who are these guys?
And there are definitely connections also with the whole issue of ET abductions, because we do, you know, again, that Rick Strassman's work absolutely documents this, that many of his volunteers on a hospital bed in New Mexico, definitely not physically abducted. Their consciousness was being abducted, and they were being. Some of them were taken up onto what they saw as UFOs or spaceships, and procedures were performed on them. Objects were inserted under their skin, crystals put into their brain. This was the experience they had, and that they reported. And that experience
were they terrified or?
Yes, sometimes terrified.
And
sometimes
these looked like your typical ETs, greys?
Yeah, those appeared as well as the serpent beings, and
so somebody ought to think twice if they're going to drink ayahuasca.
Well, it raises the question of what phenomenon we're actually dealing with here, and it is a phenomenon undoubtedly that has physical aspects, but also psychic aspects, and I think that my own view. Is that we are dealing with some kind of interdimensional contact. The reason I brought up Rick Strassman's work is that the analogy he makes is that our brains are most of the time tuned into what he calls channel normal, everyday world. We're physical beings, whatever else we are, and we need to live on this planet. We don't want to walk under a bus or fall out of a window. We want to understand and deal with the laws of physics as they operate on this planet, and in order to do that, our attention is pretty finely tuned into the frequency of this planet, of physical life on this planet. However, what the visionary plants do, and what certain other altered states of consciousness that can be induced by rhythmic dancing, by certain kinds of music, even by meditation is allow us to retune the receiver wavelength of the brain, disconnect from this physical reality, and suddenly the much wider reality, which surrounds us all the time, but which is not normally accessible to our senses, is admitted in. And therefore the suggestion is that these visions that shamans and modern volunteers in the University of New Mexico research share, they share the same imagery because they're literally going to the same place, and that we therefore may be dealing with parallel universes with other dimensions.
So in Supernatural, you are providing hardcore proof that this is a real domain, that this is an actual location in some energetic sense.
Yes, that's absolutely.
Multiple people are going to in cultures all over the world, and they're painting the stuff on the.
When they return from the visionary journey and return to the normal state of consciousness, they recollect what they saw and they paint it and they draw it, and it's stunning. And I provide massive evidence for this. How you can take an image from the cave of Lascaux in France, dated at least 17,000 years old. And you can go into the Amazon jungle amongst the Tucano Indians and find that they have also created exactly the same image following an ayahuasca journey. And therefore the common factor has to be altered states of consciousness.
Wow.
And the suggestion that there may be, the subtitle of the book is Meetings with the Ancient Teachers of Mankind. And my suggestion is through contact with parallel dimensions, parallel realms, humanity has been urged forwards on a number of occasions.
Has anybody wanted to make a TV documentary about this with you or anything yet?
No, not so, because it brings up the subject of mind-altering drugs, and this is a subject that for most people is utterly taboo, and which they're just incapable of exploring without a huge knee-jerk reaction against it. But we have to remind ourselves that the cultures of South America, indeed all of the countries surrounding the Amazon basin, have a wise policy on this. They have, not only is it totally legal to drink ayahuasca in these countries, but the right of adult human beings to drink ayahuasca is protected under laws of religious freedom.
Wow.
And not regarded as some kind of freaky, aberrant behavior, but regarded as an essential part of our humanity.
No kidding.
That we need to have these experiences in order to fully realize who they are. So So yes, I've documented all of this in Supernatural at great length. It has not been followed up anywhere. Again, I'm not surprised. But I hope in time that my attempt to tell my truth on this matter will come out and be shown to be
now,
right.
Terence McKenna obviously went through all these entheogens, as they're called, and felt that realm was giving him information about a big change coming to the world in 2012. Yeah. So have you explored the connection between this unseen realm that people are accessing via DMT and the idea that these energies or these intelligences are somehow directing us to the idea that there's going to be a golden age? I have, and I do that in Supernatural. Okay.
And to cut a long story very short there, I would just cite the words of shamans who I've discussed this matter with in the Amazon. And what they say is this: first of all, surveying the horrific destruction that is being inflicted on the Amazon by modern industrial society, and secondly, looking at the state of rampant chaos in the world at large. Those shamans feel that it is a matter of paramount importance that the visionary realm that ayahuasca opens up should be made available to Westerners. And there are huge efforts now to bring ayahuasca out of the Amazon and to bring it into the Western world. And interestingly, the United States is actually leading the way here, because the Supreme Court in the United States recently passed a ruling that members of the Unidade Vegetal, which is one of the Brazilian urban so-called churches, a syncretic group that use ayahuasca as their sacrament, that their members in the United States may drink ayahuasca legally, that the US government will not interfere with this. And it looks like that right is going to be continuously extended. What the shamans say is that the whole crisis of the world today comes about because Western technological civilization has severed its connection to spirit.
Okay, that makes perfect sense.
And that unless we reconnect to spirit, we are going to pass through a very difficult and catastrophic time. But if we can reconnect to spirit, then the possibility remains that we can pass through this difficult time into a golden age, into a rebirth of humanity, with all our potentials returned to us, not the poor, fragmented creature we are today, told by the powerful corporations and by our governments that all that matters is the material world, brainwashed with hours of reality TV and advertisements telling us to go and buy this or that material good, told that the only appropriate leisure activity is to go out and get absolutely drunk on alcohol, so that becomes a kind of relief from the horror of everyday life in industrial society. Right. That somehow we can reunite the fragmented parts of our human nature, bring back in our connection to spirit, to other realms, to other dimensions, and move forward again in a positive direction.
And you're saying that some of these new abilities have manifested in you with a new path of fictional writing as a result of
this. Yes, this was the great gift that ayahuasca gave me, as well. I'd always been open to the existence of parallel realms, but ayahuasca showed me these realms. But she, and I will speak of her as she, the great spirit that lies behind the ayahuasca brew.
Okay.
She also gave me a novel. She boosted my creativity in a way that it had never gone before. It was like I downloaded the whole story, and that's my latest book, which is called Entangled. It's going to be published in 2010.
Wow.
It's a fantasy adventure, a battle of good against evil, and the whole story, time travel, a character in the Stone Age, a character today, a time slip novel. They're interconnected. They're fighting a demonic force, and the whole story came to me in an ayahuasca vision, and many others have also been creatively influenced by ayahuasca. So I have no doubt that we're dealing with something positive and worthwhile here, which deserves to be explored further.
Well, I want to thank you for sharing with us your amazing testimony on so many levels. It's a fascinating documentation of the potential of the human spirit and of how much more there is in the past and in the future than what we've normally taken for granted.
Thank you.
So I want to thank you, Graham. It's a real pleasure to interview you today.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your work, which is hugely important and making a difference in the world.